want to talk about, where it begins. And it really begins with the chassis. The chassis is what the trailer that your tiny house is on top of. We custom build our chassis, taking into consideration how the weights are going to fall, where the heaviest part of the house is, which dictates where the axles are going to go, which dictates the interior space of that wheel well that you're going to have to build around or incorporate into your build. As we look at this particular design here, 26-foot box, you add the hitch, which is another 4 feet. And what we've done here and what you see, this area right here is for the propane tank. You don't always put it on the tiny house. Sometimes it's encased in a typical RV plastic kind of cover. Sometimes people will place that outside the tiny house in a big tank here, but it really is up to you how you want to design that for your particular tiny house. This right here is the mini split compressor. This is what makes it hot or cold and then blows it into the house. As we walk around to this other side, I think I want to point out how this chase works. So what happens with this, the actual lines, in this case anyway, we run them underneath the chassis, then they come back up and they go into this conduit, into the head that actually blows the hot and cold into the house. Now, there's a lot of different ways, or a few different ways that you can handle this conduit. In some cases, you can build it inside of the wall. I don't recommend that. If you ever have a problem with these lines, you're gonna have to rip apart that wall to get into it, to service it or take care of it. That's why I like to make the channels on the outside. It can be done like this. It can be done at an angle. Really, it's up to you, and it's gonna be dictated by axle placement, windows. As you see, we've kind of had to route it around the windows and the axle. This right here is basically the condensation escape line. So this drips. So you got to be aware that that's going to be there. As you look at the exterior of this particular tiny house, what you see here is the water inlet. This is where your fresh water comes in. In this case, this is basically just a water hose. In all cases that we do is we provide a regulator so you don't overpressurize the system, which can cause damage to your water heater. So we really need to be conscious of that. One of the things you need to consider is, where's your septic going? If you have a drain, are you going to do 2 drains? You can do one for black water, one for gray water. So in this case, we've got a combined drain that's black water, which is the toilet water, and gray water, which is all your other water that comes out right here. In this case, what we've done is a typical RV design. This has got what we call a slide valve on it that opens and closes it. In this case, we have no internal storage for septic. Everything is external. So it's got to go somewhere. So whether that goes into a tank, whether you do a septic tank above ground, it goes on and on depending on your situation. Once again, you need to consider and understand, what it is you're doing here with this. As I walk forward here, this is your exhaust for your range hood. I strongly recommend you do a range hood that's exhaust to the outside that doesn't recycle the air back into your tiny house, because that's moisture. It smells. You need to get rid of laden moisture, whether that's through, your fans or some type of a device inside your house that rids your house of that excess moisture, because that can pose issues for a tiny house because they're built so well, they're tight. You got to get rid of that moisture, or it's going to cause you problems. This right here we're looking at is the water heater compartment. This is an on-demand tankless water heating system. All the hot water you can ever use, provided you got water coming in and propane to heat it up. The thing about trailers, I'm going to add one more to it, is scissor jacks. In our case, or I should say in this case, what we've done is integrated or built into the chassis these scissor jacks. We've got one on each corner. They're used for leveling your tiny house. And that's what you see there.